Welcome back to the channel, Valuable Coins HD, Any Other, a simple copper-colored penny, light in your hand and often overlooked. But what if that ordinary coin you almost ignored is actually a 2009 United States 1-cent Lincoln penny with a story and value so remarkable that collectors all over the world are hunting for it? Today, let's journey deep into the world of the 2009 Lincoln cent, uncovering the history, the unique designs, the mint marks, and the hidden secrets that could make this small piece of money worth far more than a single cent. The year 2009 was no ordinary year for the Lincoln cent. It marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln penny itself, which first entered circulation in 1909. To celebrate this monumental year, the United States Mint released 4 different reverse designs on the penny, each representing a significant chapter in Lincoln's life. These designs became instantly popular, making 2009 a landmark year for collectors. The first design, often called the birth and early childhood in Kentucky design, shows a simple log cabin, symbolizing Lincoln's humble beginnings. The second design, formative years in Indiana, depicts a young Lincoln reading while taking a break from rail-splitting work, capturing his thirst for knowledge. The third design, professional life in Illinois, presents Lincoln standing proudly before the state capitol in Springfield, highlighting his early political career. Finally, the fourth design, presidency in Washington, D.C., showcases the U.S. Capitol dome under construction, symbolizing both a nation and a leader still in progress. Each of these coins tells a powerful story of America's most beloved president, and when preserved well, they have become prized treasures. But beyond their artistic appeal, the 2009 Lincoln cents also vary depending on their mint marks and finishes. The Philadelphia Mint coins bear no mint mark, the Denver Mint coins show the letter D, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins marked with an S. Proof coins, with their polished and mirror-like surfaces, were struck specifically for collectors, making them much rarer than the average circulating cents. These mint marks, though small, play a huge role in the value of each coin. Collectors often pay close attention to them when determining rarity and worth. Condition also matters more than most people realize. The grading system for coins, ranging from poor all the way up to mint state 70, can drastically change the price. A 2009 penny that has been kept in pristine condition, free from scratches, discoloration, or wear, could be worth hundreds or even thousands of times its face value. Imagine finding a coin that has survived untouched for over a decade, still holding its brilliant luster, looking almost exactly as it did when it left the mint. That kind of preservation makes collectors eager to compete for it at auctions, but here is where things become truly exciting: error coins. Sometimes during the minting process, mistakes happen, and these mistakes create coins that are unique. In 2009, certain Lincoln pennies were struck with double dies, misaligned designs, or other striking errors. A double die might show doubling on Lincoln's profile or in the inscriptions, giving the coin an unusual and collectible appearance. Other errors might include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or coins struck on the wrong metal. These types of flaws, instead of making the coins less desirable, actually make them incredibly valuable, because they are one-of-a-kind pieces that stand apart from the millions of regular pennies in circulation. Collectors today are constantly searching for these hidden treasures. Some check coin rolls from banks, others carefully sort through pocket change, and many buy and sell at coin shows or online auctions. The thrill of finding a rare 2009 penny keeps the hunt alive, because each discovery feels like uncovering a piece of history mixed with the excitement of unexpected fortune. What makes this even more fascinating is how a coin so small can hold so much meaning. It is a reminder of Abraham Lincoln's journey, from a child in a log cabin to the leader who guided America through one of its most challenging times. It is a piece of art, with detailed designs that reflect history. And for some lucky collectors, it is also a source of financial surprise. Today, it a second thought. But what if I told you that a simple 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1971 could actually be worth a life-changing fortune? Today we're going to uncover the fascinating history, design, and collector's secrets behind the 1971 Lincoln penny with mint marks, and by the end, you'll see why this little coin has captured the attention of treasure hunters and numismatists all over the world. the Lincoln penny is one of the most recognized coins in American history. It has been around since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. For decades, the design has remained iconic, with Lincoln's profile on the front and originally 2 wheat stalks on the back, later replaced with the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. By 1971, the penny was already a long-standing symbol of American currency and history, but coins from that specific year carry an extra layer of mystery and value. Let's start with the year itself. 1971 was a period of change in the United States. The Vietnam War was ongoing, the country was facing inflation, and the U.S. Mint was producing millions of coins to keep up with demand. The Lincoln penny of that year was struck in large quantities at multiple mints. You can find 1971 pennies with no mint mark, which means they were struck in Philadelphia, as well as those with a D for Denver and an S for San Francisco. The mint mark can be found just below the date, a tiny letter that plays a huge role in the coin story. The Philadelphia pennies had no mint mark and were the most common, but Denver also struck millions, and San Francisco produced both regular strike coins and proofs. Proof coins, specially made for collectors, have sharp details, mirror-like finishes, and are produced in smaller numbers. The San Francisco Mint is particularly interesting because some of its 1971 proof coins show doubling in the inscriptions or details of Lincoln's face, a minting error known as a double die. These kinds of errors are what make certain coins skyrocket in value. On the front of the 1971 penny, you'll see Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design that has endured for more than a century. His detailed features, from the furrows on his face to his thoughtful expression, remind us of his role in preserving the nation. The reverse side displays the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, a detail many people miss. This unique design connects the coin back to American history and architecture, giving it far more depth than most people ever notice. Now let's talk about what truly excites collectors: rarity and condition. Most 1971 pennies are still only worth a cent, but when you start looking at coins in mint state, meaning coins that were never used and still have their original luster, the story changes. Coins graded by professional services on the higher end of the scale, such as MS-66 or MS-67, can bring in hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The reason is simple: the higher the grade, the scarcer the coin. Out of the millions minted, very few survive in pristine condition, and then, there are the double die error coins from 1971. Some show doubling in the words, Liberty or, In God We Trust, while others have doubling in the date or other details. These errors happen because the dies used to strike the coins shifted slightly during the engraving process, creating a doubled image. Collectors love these error coins because they are truly unique. No two are exactly alike. The 1971 double die pennies from San Francisco, for example, are among the most famous and sought-after varieties from that year. Imagine finding one of these coins in your pocket change, tucked away in a jar of old pennies, or hidden in a collection you inherited. It would feel like discovering buried treasure. The thrill of numismatics is that you never quite know when an ordinary coin will turn out to be something extraordinary. Collectors around the world actively search for these 1971 Lincoln pennies with mint marks, especially those with proof finishes or doubling errors, and the market for them has only grown over time. Rare examples in near-perfect condition can command staggering prices at auctions. While most coins from this year will never be worth more than a cent or two, a select few have become the stuff of legends. So what does this all mean for you? It means that the next time you come across a 1971 penny, don't just brush it aside. Take a close look at the mint mark under the date. Examine the coin carefully for any unusual doubling or signs of proof quality. And always consider the condition, because even the smallest flaw can make the difference between a penny worth almost nothing and one worth a small fortune. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1974, a coin that carries history, fascinating variations, and the potential to be worth an absolute fortune if you happen to find the right one. To understand the importance of the 1974 penny, we need to step back into American history. By the early 1970s, the United States was experiencing major economic challenges. Inflation was rising, and the cost of producing coins, especially the penny, was becoming a serious issue for the U.S. Mint. The penny had been traditionally made of copper, but as copper prices soared, officials began searching for alternatives. This decision would forever make the 1974 penny stand out among coin collectors, because it was the year the Mint experimented with different metals in an attempt to save money. Most 1974 Lincoln pennies you see are made of a bronze alloy containing about 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. On the obverse, or front, you'll see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner and introduced in 1909. His face, with its deep features and thoughtful gaze, had already been a part of American coinage for decades. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo is proudly displayed. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even spot the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail that many people never notice. But here's where things get interesting. In 1974, the Mint struck experimental pennies using aluminum instead of the usual copper alloy. These aluminum pennies were lighter in weight and cheaper to produce. More than 1 million were minted as test coins, and a number were distributed to members of Congress for evaluation. However, the plan faced heavy opposition. Doctors worried that aluminum pennies would not show up clearly on X-rays if swallowed by children. Vending machine companies also pushed back, saying their machines were calibrated to detect the weight of copper coins. As a result, the experiment was cancelled, and almost all of the aluminum pennies were ordered to be destroyed, but some escaped. A few examples of these 1974 aluminum Lincoln cents are still believed to exist, making them incredibly rare and valuable. The controversy around these coins, their mysterious history, and the secrecy surrounding how a few slipped out of the mint have made them one of the most legendary coins in American numismatics. Collectors dream of finding one, and the story of the aluminum penny has turned the 1974 cent into a coin worth a second look. Now let's talk about mint marks. The 1974 pennies were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If your coin has no mint mark, it came from Philadelphia. A D beneath the date means it was minted in Denver, while an S indicates San Francisco. Proof coins from San Francisco are especially admired by collectors because of their sharp, mirror-like surfaces, made specifically for coin enthusiasts rather than circulation. Within these mint mark variations, condition plays a huge role. A coin that has been circulated and shows heavy wear may be worth only a cent, but a coin preserved in pristine, mint state condition could be valued far higher. Errors also add tremendous value to coins from this year. Some 1974 pennies are known to have doubling on the date or inscriptions, a phenomenon known as a double die. Others may have been struck slightly off-center, or on defective planchets, creating odd shapes and clipped edges. These mistakes, rare as they are, make the coin unique and highly desirable to collectors. A small error can turn a common penny into an extraordinary collectible. So what does this mean for you? It means that every time you come across a penny from 1974, you should stop and take a closer look. Check the mint mark beneath the date. Look carefully at the details in the lettering and Lincoln's profile for signs of doubling. Pay attention to whether the coin has been carefully preserved or if it shows heavy wear. And keep in mind that even the tiniest variation or difference could make the coin stand out in the eyes of collectors. It's amazing to think that a coin as small and ordinary as a penny could be linked to such a big story in American history. The 1974 Lincoln cent isn't just a piece of pocket change, it's a piece of an experiment, a symbol of a country facing change, and in some cases, a hidden treasure. Every coin tells a story, but the 1974 penny tells one that is filled with politics, economics, and mystery. Collectors around the world continue to search tirelessly for the rarest versions of the 1974 penny. Proof coins, mint state examples, and especially the elusive aluminum cents are prized finds that can sell for jaw-dropping amounts. And while most of the pennies from this year will never be worth more than their face value, the rare ones that do exist can bring life-changing sums of money. Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story of the United States 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1979, a coin that might look ordinary at first glance but can, under the right circumstances, be worth an astonishing fortune. By the end of this journey, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The Lincoln cent has a history stretching back to 1909, when it was first introduced to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. Its debut was historic. It was the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of symbolic imagery. Over the years, the design became a staple of American currency, with Lincoln's portrait on the front and, starting in 1959, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. By 1979, the penny had already cemented its place in the hearts of Americans as a familiar everyday coin, yet that year produced varieties and conditions that continue to excite collectors to this day. To understand what makes the 1979 penny special, let's look closely at its details. On the obverse, or front, we see Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, with the words, "In God We Trust," arched above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the date 1979 to the right. Just beneath the date, you may notice a tiny letter. This is the mint mark, and it tells us where the coin was struck. Pennies from Philadelphia in 1979 had no mint mark, Denver coins carried a D, and San Francisco struck proof coins with an S. Now, the reverse side of the coin showcases the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. Though millions of Americans carried this design daily, few ever stopped to notice that inside the memorial, if you look closely with a magnifying glass, is a tiny engraving of the seated statue of Abraham Lincoln, an incredible detail that reflects the artistry behind even the smallest coins. It's this combination of symbolism and fine craftsmanship that keeps collectors fascinated, but what really makes the 1979 Lincoln penny stand out in value comes down to three factors: condition, mint mark, and errors. First, condition. Coins are graded on a scale from poor, heavily worn and almost unrecognizable, to mint state, where the coin looks as fresh as the day it left the mint. Most pennies from 1979 show signs of circulation, scratches, and wear, making them worth only a cent. But when a coin has been preserved in perfect mint state condition, its value increases dramatically. Collectors will pay large sums for high-grade examples, since so few survive in flawless form. Next, let's talk about mint marks. The San Francisco Mint produced proof coins in 1979, and some of these have become especially desirable. Proof coins are struck with polished dies on specially prepared planchets, giving them a sharp, mirror-like appearance. They were not meant for circulation but for collectors, making them rarer from the start. Some of these proofs also carry unusual variations, like the so-called Type 1 and Type 2s mint marks. Tiny differences in how the mint mark was engraved on the die created two distinct varieties, and collectors eagerly chase after both. And then, there are errors. Error coins are the gems that truly electrify the collecting world. In 1979, some pennies were struck with doubling in the inscriptions or the date, producing what's called a double die. Others might have been struck slightly off-center, creating a coin where the design seems shifted or incomplete. There are also reports of weak strikes, clipped planchets, or other unusual mishaps. Far from being discarded, these error coins are treasures in the eyes of collectors, because no two are exactly alike. Their rarity and uniqueness make them extremely valuable, and every coin hunter dreams of stumbling upon one. Imagine opening an old coin jar that's been sitting in your family's home for decades, pouring out a handful of copper coins, and spotting one with the date 1979 and a curious doubling in the letters, or a coin that seems brighter and sharper than the rest. That little discovery could put you in possession of something extraordinary. The thrill of finding such a coin is what keeps collectors searching, sorting through rolls from banks, and examining every penny with care. The 1979 Lincoln penny also represents a time of change for American coinage. Just a few years later, in 1982, the composition of the penny would shift from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc core due to rising copper prices. That makes the late 1970s and early 1980s pennies some of the last examples of the classic copper composition. Adding another layer of historical importance to these coins, collectors are drawn not only to the rarity and potential value of the 1979 penny but also to its story. It is a coin that bridges the gap between eras, carrying the weight of American history, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, and the artistry of mint engravers. It shows us that even the smallest denominations can hold incredible meaning and value. So, what should you do if you find a 1979 penny? First, check the mint mark below the date. Then carefully examine the coin under good lighting, maybe even with a magnifying glass, to look for errors like doubling or unusual strikes. If you think the coin is in excellent condition or shows signs of being in error, it's worth having it appraised by a professional grading service. You never know when a penny could turn out to be worth thousands, or far more. Today we're diving deep into the story of the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1976 with mint marks, a coin that has caught the attention of collectors across the country and even around the world. The year 1976 was special for American history because it was the bicentennial year, marking 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. While special bicentennial designs were issued on the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, the humble Lincoln penny kept its familiar design featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But even though it didn't get a unique bicentennial design, the 1976 penny carries its own hidden treasures that collectors crave. The coin was minted in 3 primary locations: Philadelphia, which produced pennies without a mint mark; Denver, which produced coins with a D mint mark; and San Francisco, which struck proof coins with an S mint mark. Each of these carries a story, and some are much harder to find in pristine condition than others. On the surface, you might think a 1976 penny isn't too old. After all, you can still find them in circulation today. But here's the twist: most of these pennies are heavily worn, scratched, or discolored after nearly 50 years of use. Finding one that has survived in sharp detail, with no scratches and that beautiful original copper glow, is far rarer than people realize. Collectors pay special attention to the sharpness of Lincoln's hair, the crisp lettering of "In God We Trust," and the clean lines of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. When a coin is perfectly preserved, it's given a high grade by professional grading services, and that's when its value skyrockets. But there's another layer that makes the 1976 Lincoln penny fascinating: errors and varieties. Mistakes at the U.S. Mint have always been a source of excitement in the coin collecting world. For this penny, you might encounter doubled dies, where the design looks slightly doubled because of a mistake during the striking process. These doubled features can sometimes be seen in the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's portrait itself. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is shifted and part of the coin is blank, or clipped planchets, where a small piece of the penny is missing. Each of these errors makes the coin unique, and depending on how dramatic the mistake is, collectors are willing to pay thousands of dollars for them. Now, let's talk about why collectors hold the 1976 penny in such high regard. It's not only about the errors or high-grade examples, it's also about nostalgia. People love collecting coins from important years in history, and 1976, the bicentennial year, is one of the most celebrated in American history. Having a piece of that era in your hand feels like owning a little slice of the country's 200-year story. That emotional connection, paired with rarity, is what makes some of these coins worth serious money. So, how do you know if your 1976 penny might be valuable? First, check for a mint mark. A coin with no mint mark means it came from Philadelphia, while a D under the date means Denver, and an S indicates a proof coin from San Francisco. Proof coins are especially desirable if they've been kept safe in their original condition, as they were struck with extra care and often have mirror-like finishes. Next, examine the coin's condition. Does it still shine like new? Are all the details sharp and clear? If so, you may have something special. And finally, check for errors. Even a small doubling or unusual strike could add a huge premium to your coin's value. Think about it. Millions of these coins were produced, yet only a fraction survived in top condition, and even fewer with noticeable errors. That's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's like a treasure hunt where the prize could be hiding in your own pocket or in an old jar of change at home. Imagine the excitement of finding a coin you thought was only worth 1 cent, but in reality, it's a rare gem that collectors would pay a fortune to own. The Lincoln penny has always been one of the most collected coins in American history. Introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. Since then, it has remained an icon of American coinage, carrying both history and value. The 1976 penny, with its bicentennial year significance, is a perfect example of how even a coin that looks ordinary can become extraordinary in the right circumstances, and here's where things get even more exciting. While most 1976 Lincoln pennies will only be worth a few cents or maybe a couple of dollars in better condition, the rarest examples, especially those with mint errors and graded at the highest levels, have sold for incredible amounts. In fact, one of the most remarkable 1976 Lincoln pennies with a mint mark reached a jaw-dropping auction price of $110,000.